But what I'm asking is when, let's say, I'm thinking of a particular male client, okay? And he has a family now, and all the family responsibilities and obligations and just things like that, and he has this responsibility. And I'm not saying that you don't, but I mean, Lord knows you do.
I don't have a family.
But he can't just step out and do what he originally came to do, his music, and feeling very depressed, very low, and very like it's a lost cause that he really can't get back to it because it wouldn't be the responsible thing to do right now, or that it's too late, it's past his time. So I'm just curious with how you think in your mind, what would you do? Have you ever experienced that in your own life?
Oh, sure. There are some of my dreams that are unrealized as I sit here having this great conversation with you.
Okay.
But they...
So what are you doing to keep it in...
I tend to write some of mine down, and I can go back 20 years and look in a journal and see what I was thinking in some ways. And for me... If I'm still dealing with the same difficulties 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years later, that's an indication to me that I'm doing something wrong. And some of those things that I wrote about or wrote down as goals are unrealized, but still alive someplace in there. But the interesting thing for a person, and I should say to your audience that much of what I have learned in these past 15 plus years, what I call the wisdom of entrepreneurs, comes from having had so many as guests and stories on our show Making It. But I discovered that you can take the dream and give it various colorations and pieces. In other words, you mentioned music for this friend of yours or client. And if that person can't be the front man for a successful rock and roll band, there are other ways that they can have the dream of the music, whether it's writing, arranging, studio, shooting music videos, management, etc., so that if they love music, the music is part of their professional lives. Friend of mine, and here's a lesson that perhaps was shared with your friend. There's a friend of mine who wanted to write songs. He's a very successful salesman and has a business that sells animation cells. You know, those drawings that animation cells. And I said, well, why don't you cultivate some clients among musicians and music managers and so forth? They'll give you a close association with those people. And perhaps from that close association, you'll have an opportunity to learn more about what you can do with your songwriting ambitions, etc. And so he has developed friendships with two well-known composers who are helping him along and encouraging him about his songwriting. So there's always a way. You should never throw the dream in the junk heap. You know?
I really find because this particular individual, I really feel that people become very depressed or they lose that hope, and we always need to keep that hope alive.
Yes, indeed.
And I think what you just made a very important point, that we need to come from another angle. It's maybe we're just being guided in a different direction, and to be more creative about the angle in which to approach the subject. I mean, maybe he could bring his family, incorporate his family along somehow or something, or just something along those lines. So
maybe the whole family can sing. I don't know. The Counsels, remember the group called the Counsels and others? Yeah.
Right. So it's definitely, it's so important, though, that we have that getting back to the radio with you as a child. I mean, here you see these people on TV, or you hear them.
Heard radio. That was big. My father loved radio. We had radios in every room in the house. We were poor, but we had radios everywhere.
Isn't that funny? Why is that?
He loved radio.
Was it the news or sports or music? What was he listening to?
He loved the shortwave radios. And those days we had like 3 radios in the house that had shortwave bands, so you could listen to foreign broadcasts and so forth. He loved that.
Oh, that's so neat.
Yeah,
so you got a little bit of everything. You heard.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
And it was radio became my cultural education. I mean, this black family from the South. We're from a little town called Andalusia, Alabama. That time living in Niagara Falls, so classic. And in my house, because of all those darned radios, we played and were fans of country music as well as rhythm and blues and blues. No classical, but we had a fair representation of other forms of music in the house.
Right. That's fantastic. So here you're listening to the radio, you're listening to these announcers, and are you thinking to yourself,
I'd like to be one of them.
yeah, I'd like to be one of them.
And the appeal to me was twofold. Remember the shy kid, and I thought, boy, I'd be able to talk to people and they wouldn't be able to see me. I'd be able to say what I want to say and so forth and so on, and hopefully somebody would empathize with or find some value in what I wanted to say, but I wouldn't have to look them in the eye as we're doing right now, and that sounds like a dream world for a shy child, doesn't it?
Right.